is Eric. I work with Forte. This is Java. Sometimes she pops into some of the videos as well. Today I'm going to show you some different exercises that are associated with your knees. These are a beginning set of exercises, but it's a good way just to periodically throughout the day get some activity around your knee joints as well. So if you've been sitting a lot, this is something that you can do simply at your desk as well, just to get up and move around a little bit, and many of them can also be done sitting. I will show variations in sitting as well as in standing for some of the exercises, and I hope they work well for you. I'm going to start off standing and just explaining a couple of things that are important to keep in mind with any exercise. One is I want you to remember as much as possible to try to engage your tummy muscles. So stabilizing through the core, we call it abdominal bracing, is going to be an important thing that I teach with almost every exercise. So as much as possible, try to remember to keep your tummy tight while you're doing your exercises. And then the first exercise that we're going to start with, in addition to remembering to keep the tummy tight, is glute squeezes. Okay, so I'm going to turn sideways, and all I'm going to do is just squeeze my cheeks together back there. I'm going to hold it tight for about 5 seconds, and then let them relax. And then I'm going to squeeze them together again and let it relax. And then I'm going to turn back to you, and you keep squeezing as we're going. We're going to squeeze and release. Now, as you're doing that, you should feel like it kind of pushes your hips forward a little bit. You should feel a little bit of a light stretch, depending on how tight the fronts of your hips are. But a light stretch maybe in the fronts of the hips, that's fine. I want you to make sure as you're doing it that you're not locking your knees. So we don't want to lock the knees back as we're squeezing. You want to keep the knees slightly soft while you're squeezing back there in the glutes. 5 seconds, let it relax. And we're just going to do that a few more times. And again, at home or at work or wherever you are when you're doing this, this is something that you can do as many times as you feel like. And in fact, this is something I encourage people to do periodically throughout the day, anytime that they're standing. So if you're brushing your teeth, if you're washing dishes, if you're standing in line at the grocery store, this is something that is relatively imperceptible for the people around us. So it's something that's easy enough to do. If you have the opportunity to stand up at work at different times, this is something you can do just to get yourself up and out of that flexed hip posture that we all end up in when we're sitting for long periods of time, and just take some of that pressure out of the way for you. Now, the next one you can do sitting or standing. I'm going to show it sitting first. So I'm going to move my chair right in here, and it's just marching. And all you're going to do, I'll just sit at the edge of my chair because it works easier that way, is I'm just going to lift my knee and lower it back down. Lift my knee, lower it back down. This doesn't have to be a big movement. What it is not, as I'm sitting in particular, it's not me slumping down to do a marching movement. It really is just a straight up movement. My body should be staying relatively straight up as I'm doing this activity. And as I get stronger, and if I have the flexibility, I can bring my knee up. Java really wants to be involved this morning. I can bring my knee up as high as I am capable and feel comfortable up. But again, if this is where you're starting, is just with a really low movement, that's fine. For some people, this is a lot of effort, and that's okay. So you have to start where it works for you. We're going to do just a couple more on each side. You bring your knee up as high as you can. The other option, of course, is to do this standing. So if you are already standing and you feel comfortable standing, again, you can do the standing with just a little bit of a foot lift here, or progressively higher up, depending on how you're feeling with things. Now, I'm going to show, again, a couple of modifications here. We're going to do a mini squat, which also could be a sit to stand. So a mini squat, I'll turn sideways first, is really this. I'm just sticking my bottom back, bending my knees a little bit, coming back up. This is really about using my knees to push me up straight. But as I come up and I'm pushing my hips forward, I want to engage my glutes. And the whole time I should be keeping my stomach tight, right? So mini squat. For people that have bad knees, this is about as deep as you want to go. If you feel like you can go a little bit deeper, that's fine. The squat is about keeping your bottom back. It is not about allowing your knees to go forward. So this is great to watch yourself do in a mirror, if at all possible. It should always be bottom back, as though you're going to sit in the chair. And so a sit to stand is an alternative way to do a squat, where you can give your legs a little bit of a break in between each repetition. And so if this works well for you too, particularly if you have a higher chair, If you have bad knees, starting off on a higher seat or the arm of a couch or something high like that is a nice way to start. I'll even have people at different times, I'm going to bring my blinds up a little bit here, just kind of sit back against the wall and then stand up, and then sit back against the wall and then stand up, and you can kind of brace against, a like I just did here, window ledge or something along those lines too. Okay, the next that we're going to do is just a lunge in place. Okay, so from a sideways angle here, this looks like this. I just put 1 foot forward, and this doesn't have to go super far forward, and that's a modification. So if you are a person that has not super good balance, putting the 1 foot just a little bit forward is a good place to start. And you just let your knee bend, and wherever you look down, and wherever it covers up your toe, you stop, and you push yourself back up. Bend the knee, covers the toe, stop, push yourself back up. My rhyme that goes with this to help people is where your knee covers your toe, that's as deep as you go. I've been saying that for 20 odd years now, and it still sticks for me, so I hope it sticks for you. If this is something that you feel like you can go a little bit further out, the further out you go, the harder it gets, right? Because you end up bending your knee just a little bit more until it covers up your toe. You can step that out as far as you want to. Your other option, if that's feeling easy, keep going. If that feels like where you want to stop, is to step into the lunge and then push back and alternate, step into the lunge and push back, or you can do multiple times on one side. This requires more balance, and I would say that you can keep your chair handy if you want to hold on to as a balance point. Again, preferably not a chair that has wheels, and you're stepping into it this way. And again, if one side at a time feels too much of a strain, alternate side to side. If stepping into it throws you off balance too much, just as a reminder how we started, just put the foot out there, bend the knee, cover the toe, that's as deep as you go, push yourself back up. All right. And that's a good place. That's a good way to do those lunges. Again, very good for strengthening up those quad muscles. I'm also now going to do just a little bit of a side step. Okay. And this is something that is, again, easy enough to do, relatively in place at a desk. My space that I use here for most of these things is about 6 feet by 3 feet. So it doesn't take up a lot of space. And I teach full exercise classes in this kind of a space. If you want to make this a little bit harder, you can take a little bit bigger of a step. Okay, and it just depends on what level of flexibility and balance and strength that you have. As you're doing this and you do enough repetitions, you really start to feel this in the sides of your hips. I do want you to be sure you are not locking your knees, so keep the knees what feels slightly bent. If you still want to make it harder, you bend your knees a little bit more and stay in that slight squat. So when I say that and I'm going side to side, my bottom is back. It's not me going forward with my knees. My bottom goes back and I keep my weight behind me as I do that. And again, if you want, you can make this a longer distance. I'm going to go off camera here for a second. You can go down a hallway if you want to, and then you work your way on back. And a lot of times I have people do that when they have a long hallway and they don't feel silly doing that in their home or at work or whatever. Other dog, the white dog, is Chloe. She likes to show up in some of the exercises as well. Okay, I'm going to bring the chair back in as a balance point, as a just in case. We're going to do heel raises. And this is something that, depending on the strength of your calf muscles, you can do sitting. I'm going to show a few standing up. And we do about 15 or 20 of them. You can do really as many as your body will allow you to do. As you go up onto your toes, watch my ankles for a second. I don't want you to go up and out to the side like this. I want you to really stay on those big toes as much as possible. The chair is for balance. It's not something I want you to lean on. If you have to lean on it, like if you're doing this kind of a thing, then you would be better to do your heel raises sitting down. And so I would say sit at the edge of your chair and raise up onto your toes here. And get the muscles, even contracting the muscles in this position is a good way to get everything a little bit active to begin with. building up strength to begin with. Over time, you can kind of lean on them a little bit more, add a little bit of resistance this way. You can always put weights if you want to onto the tops of your legs as well, and progressively go back up to standing up. Now the opposite is toes up, okay? So we pull the toes up. And this is very important in your balance. But again, both the heels and the toes going in these different movements are very important as far as stabilizing the knees. They don't seem like they're strengthening the knees specifically. They're not. They're stabilizing. They give you balance and control. So this is something you can do standing. Standing up, it looks like this. I'm going to keep the chair there because I'm going to use it in a second anyway. Right? And so this is the way that you can do it standing. You can certainly hold on to your chair and pull your toes up, and that sometimes gives people a little bit more comfort to do that movement, and sometimes it allows them to go a little bit higher with the feet. All right, we're going to move on to the next one, and I'm going to turn sideways again. There are a couple of ways to do this. For a person that is having knee issues and is maybe newer to the activity, I would say slide your heel out to where you're harder on the rubber floor, but to where your knee goes straight, and then really just tighten up those quad muscles. Hold it for about 5 seconds, and then slide it back and hold here like you're kind of pushing against the leg of the chair for about 5 seconds. You can do this on a couch too. Slide it out, let the leg go straight, tighten up the quad, slide it back, push the heel against the couch or the chair, hold for 5 seconds so you're tightening up your hamstrings. From the front, it looks like this. I'm just sliding my leg out, tightening my quad, sliding it back. I got to get next to the leg of the chair here, holding there, tightening against to feel my hamstrings, and so on. Keep doing that if that works for you. If you don't have specific knee issues, you can also do this, where you just lift the leg up straight and then bring it back. And same deal, you're pushing against something, or you can just bring it under you as far as you can and hold it for 5 seconds that way. Alternate if you want to alternate, or do multiple repetitions on one side at a time. And you're just going back and forth with it. Now there's a degree of flexibility that goes with this. So for some people, if they don't have super flexible hamstrings, bringing the leg out here is difficult, and they might need to have it down here anyway, but they may not need to keep their foot on the floor. So again, do about 5-second holds at each end, whether your foot is on the floor and you're just straightening the knee out here, or if you're lifting the foot up off of the floor and then bringing it back. 5-second holds at each end, about 10 or 15 of them in a row. And then the last thing that we're going to do is a deadlift. Now, if you have bad knees, there are 2 ways to do this. The true deadlift, the feet are about your hip width apart. We bend the knees down. We hinge at the hips. The hips go way back behind us. We keep the hands in close, and we come back up and straighten up and squeeze those glutes. And it's very much like a squat, okay? But there's a lot more that's happening from the hinging at the hips. If I turn sideways, a squat looks more like this, okay? And a deadlift looks more like this, okay? Now the deadlift that I'm showing has more of a knee bend. If you have bad knees, not a great movement for you. So you can actually, it is a good movement. It's just not necessarily something you're gonna like as much. So the alternative would be to bend the knees less and just hinge at the hips, and your hands will just come a little bit more in front of your feet. And this is just a variety of a way to do that deadlift. Again, I would say, based on your own tolerance, do about 10 or 15 of them in a row. Try to keep your body relatively straight. I feel like I keep deviating as I'm doing this today, so I'm gonna have to check that out on myself. And don't push yourself so fast you're getting super out of breath or super sweaty, especially if you're at work. That's going to wrap it up for a good set of beginning exercises, or just things that you can do throughout your day, at work, at home, to help stabilize and strengthen around the knees. My name is Eric. I work with Forte. If you're looking for other exercises, please look to us to give you some assistance along those lines. We hope you have a good day.
We here at Forte would like to thank you for watching our video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to follow more of the offerings from Forte, please subscribe below. And don't forget to share us with your friends. Enjoy well-being.